Welcome to Born on the Bayou Sports, a Houston sports show made for Houstonians by Houstonians. Join Tim Costello and Scott Barzilla every week as they break down the latest in Houston Astros, Rockets, and Texans news. Tim's a former minor league broadcaster, and Scott has written 2 books on the Baseball Hall of Fame. Yeah, if Javier could get it figured out, it would make things a lot easier because he was that guy everybody was counting on this year to be a Cy Young candidate, take that big step forward and help anchor this rotation with Fromber.
Since he's come to Houston, you can look at the development of guys like Carlos Correa defensively, Jeremy Pena defensively. I mean, you can Alex Bregman's, certainly I think a better than average third baseman.
And now you're putting teams in 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 9. Now here comes Will Anderson. Pin back your ears, let's go. So if you're Bayou born and bred, or just like spending time in the H, sit down, relax, and stay Houston strong. Welcome back into Born on the Bayou Sports. Tim Costello, Scott Barzilla coming to you hot here as the Astros head to extra innings on a Wednesday night.
All right, Tim. So we were talking off air. I'm sure that, most of y'all, if you're glued into your Astros, have heard that the Tampa Bay Rays, or at least, the Tropicana Field, are trying to sue your Yordan Alvarez for breaking their scoreboard. So just asking you, as an avid golfer, have you had any misses or not so near misses with property?
Yeah, I personally have never broke a window. I've hit a house, sure. I think everybody has. I've been at a course playing and then got eventually to the point where I joined a threesome because it was backed up, and they told me that they were playing and hit a house and broke a window, and the lady demanded their phone number and asked me what I would have done. And I said I would have, either told them assume liability, or they would have got John Smith with the old Mike Jones phone number or something like that, right? But no, I have to, to me, when you build a giant jumbotron in a baseball stadium, that's called assumed liability. You don't have the option to sue somebody for hitting a home run in batting practice that broke your big screen TV.
Yeah, I was going to say that, I'm not a lawyer, and I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. But my understanding of the law is that, if you're going to say that somebody is responsible for property damage, you would either have to prove negligence on their part or that it was purposefully done. And how are you going to prove that? Well, I purposely hit a 500-foot home run to break your scoreboard.
When I was in high school, we were members for a bit at Baywood Country Club. I don't know if you remember that one, Scott.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Genoa Red Bluff and
played district there one year.
Huh?
We played district there one year.
Yeah. So it's a wonderful. It was a wonderful little golf course that, was a redneck country club. It really was the best way to describe it. The clubhouse was a collection of modular homes, and the range ran along Alameda Genoa Road.
Yeah.
So one day, my brother got the genius idea to hit knockdown punch shots at the cars that were passing by. Now, had he have been any good at his knockdown punch shots, as he called them, that might have been a case where my parents owed some money. Unfortunately, nothing went that direction before he was caught by the Pasadena Memorial coach and got a 1-month ban from the course. But unless you're negligent or, as you said, trying to maliciously do something, as my brother was that day, a golf ball going through a range and hitting a car, hey, it's an accident. No, it's just no one's liable. Hitting one OB on a house on the course, that's assumed liability. Hitting a scoreboard with a home run, you put it in a baseball stadium, you had to expect it at some point.
Yeah, I know you've heard many stories of the golfathon, and I'm still hoping to get Tim to come this year. We'll see, if that's going to be in the cards. But usually, either the Saturday evening round, we used to play 36 on Saturday, so the Saturday evening round or the Sunday morning round is typically a Florida scramble, which I know Tim knows that format well. So one year we were playing at April Sound, and my beloved father slices one over the houses, and it has clearly gone over the houses. So about 10, 15 minutes later, this guy comes screaming on the course, "Somebody hit my BMW! Somebody hit my BMW! Are you the jackasses that hit my BMW?" So he goes to look at our scorecard, and he sees only one score across the top because we're playing in the scramble round. He says, "Oh, you guys are making pars and birdies. It couldn't have been you guys."
Hey,
So,
saved by the rules. There's a funny
saved by
like
the rules.
B-list 70s movie. I can't remember what it is, but this guy like hits a slice and it like goes and hits a car, and then the car has an accident and dies. So then the cop comes up and like he's like, "Hey, were you playing this hole at this time?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Did you slice a ball?" And he goes, "Yeah." And it looks like the law's gonna intervene, and then next thing you know, the cops like giving him a lesson so that way he doesn't slice anymore. But no,
Yeah.
it's all in good fun. I'd have to do some research. I'm not sure there actually is a lawsuit. There's no way anyone's that stupid. They might. I think Jordan was joking in just a couple things that he said about you better have some video evidence or things along that nature. But that would be the most open and shut case I think we'd ever see in the history of the United States legal system. I don't even
Could
know
you
what
imagine,
judge would accept it.
can you imagine that on People's Court?
Oh my God, Judge Judy would have a field day. I'd
Oh
actually,
man.
if you had a pay-per-view event for a Judge Judy episode and it was that case, I might pay the $5 to watch it.
Still my favorite Judge Judy case. I think it was Judge Judy, either Judge Judy or Judge Millian, People's Court. Plaintiff skips bail. And so the plaintiff paid for bail and the defendant skipped bail, right? So turns around and looks at the defendant. Why did you skip bail? Why didn't you show up to your court date? It was on my birthday. I didn't think you had to go to court on your birthday. Of course,
Hey,
it went downhill from there.
my dad always said growing up, you can't get in trouble on your birthday. So I guess there's some truth to that. But
Yeah.
let's keep this one moving on as we do a little Astros talk like we do every single episode of this show. Astros have had another good week, up a run in extra innings here with 2 outs. That should do it. So now another win. They've continued to stay hot. As of now, 2 games up on the Mariners, depending on how that game tonight plays out against the Tigers. It'll either be staying at a game and a half or moving to 2.5. Scott, what do you have to say about your Houston Astros here as of late?
Well, I tell you what, we came on the air last week. It was right after they blew that opener of the Rangers series. And we were just hoping at that point that they would be able to come out and win 2 out of 3 in that series. But would you have believed it if I'd said, "Oh, we won the next 8 ball games"?
No, I wouldn't. And what you're not going to believe is that the Tigers have just walked off the Mariners. So the Astros now 2.5 games up on the Seattle Mariners in the division. Thank you, AJ Hinch, for continuing to be a Houston bro and getting the job done there. But no, like you took care of business in the Rangers series the next 2 games. And then you've continued to win throughout the whole weekend. You go and you get a sweep. Um, and then here we are again. You've taken um, 3 in a row now here, right? So, 8 games now in a row for the Houston Astros. Um, just you're in a great spot right now. I think the whole city of Houston is eating crow when it comes to Kikuchi because he has been nothing short of spectacular in his 3 starts as a Houston Astro. Maybe spectacular is a stretch, but he's been very, very good. He's been exactly what Dana Brown told us he was going to be when he went and traded for this guy. And he's been a jolt of electricity to the starting rotation.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I've noted before on this show is that we were underwater on our Pythagorean record, mainly because we were sucking in one-run games. Well, you take a look at this series. Yeah, we've had some games where we've beaten them into submission, but the last two nights and against the Rays have been both been one-run victories, low-scoring games as Rays games usually are. And sure, it wasn't perfect. I tell you that eighth inning, defensively was not, pitching wise wasn't a good inning, but they found a way to grit it out and they found a way to do it. So that's really what you love. I was going to tell you the afternoon show on 610. They've got a nice little a little radio cut or audio cut where they have these women going, "I love Kikuchi." It's just awesome.
Yeah, man, he's got to be taking the city by storm a little bit, and I think he's kind of got to be having a little bit of a renaissance as well, too, right? Where his whole attitude has to be different. This guy was having a dog shit year comparatively in Toronto, right? Like a team that had high expectations, not going to make the playoffs. He was a guy that they were leaning on heavily. Has not been good in Toronto. And now here you come to Houston, they say, "Hey, stop throwing the curveball." And next thing you know, 3 straight wins, 2 runs or less in each one of those wins. The guy's been fantastic. I think Espada can maybe do a little bit better job as he gets to know him on maybe knowing when to pull him. I think, he looked from the start of the 6th inning, he looked like he was having issues in his last start against Texas. So maybe that, or I'm sorry, against Tampa. But either way, so far so great with Kikuchi.
Yeah, you know what? I kind of liken him to not in this. I don't know if they have the exact same issues, but you remember how Jake Odorizzi was money the first 3 times through the order?
Yeah.
And then Dusty would throw him out there the third time through the order, and he would always get gassed every time. I mean, he'd be a guy that if I had Odorizzi today, if he gave me 5 no-hit or 6 no-hit innings, I'd still pull him. I mean, because it's that the numbers were that severe. And I think what you're seeing with Kikuchi is it's not necessarily a through the order kind of deal, but it seems like right around that 90 pitch mark,
Yeah.
where things kind of start going sideways for him.
I think there's a pretty big dip in velocity right around that 90 pitch mark for Kikuchi. And if you look at his last start, there was a bit of an offensive output in like the top of the 6th inning. So he goes out for the bottom of the 6th and then had to sit for a while, right? So that certainly doesn't help when you're in a rhythm and then you're knocked out of rhythm. Same thing happened to Hunter Brown the other night as well. But again, overall, nothing negative to be said about this guy. I think if anything, the more Espada learns about him, the more he'll know when to pull him and understand that a little bit more. But I think we've got to expand the talk of the starting pitching outside of just Kikuchi, right? We've talked about him for 2 or 3 shows in a row. Framber Valdez has been on a tear, Scott. He's made his last 7 starts with Diaz behind the plate. The Astros have won his last 9 starts. He's got an ERA below 3 in those starts. This is a guy who seems to have righted the ship right about the time we needed him, but also about the time where he's going to get himself a nice little payday, probably.
Well, not only that, but I was sitting here thinking that and right now, if the award voting were done today, he would not be a Cy Young candidate. But if he puts together another 6 or 7 starts, like he has those last 7 starts, like you mentioned, because I think was he 5-0 with 2 no decisions, and the Astros are 7-0 no starts.
Yeah.
So imagine putting up another like 5 or 6 victories in the remainder of the season. ERA maybe dips around to the low 3s or the high 2s. I mean, you'd have to. I don't know that I would give him the award, but he definitely would get top 5 votes.
Yeah, I don't think he's been the Cy Young this year, but I do think he's been back to the Framber of old. I think for some reason last year it seemed to me Framber chased the K a little bit too much, and even at times this year he chased the strikeout a little bit too much. But the best version of Framber is the one that gets swings and contact, soft contact early and counts because his fastball or his sinker, whatever you want to call it, looks like it's going to be in one place and then moves right before you make contact. When you can get people biting on that pitch early, you get deep in the games, you get soft contact, your fielders are engaged. That's the Fromber that helped us win a World Series in 2022 and nearly win one in 21, right?
Yeah, and so the other conversation I would have is, so I'm just going to start a general question. Who is your American League Rookie of the Year as we stand right now?
Jeez. I mean, I really don't know at this point, Scott. I'd have to look around, do a little bit more research on that. I don't necessarily know if there's anybody on the Astros that is worthy, unless you can try and make a case for somebody here, or for Aaron Getty.
Well, that's where I was going, because I know when I was listening to, unfortunately, when I turned it on to Fubo, it directed me in the Rangers series to Bally's and not to Space City Sports. And so I was listening to
Yeah, you got to find. You got to look on the side,
our
the logo there.
our good friend Dave Raymond
Oh,
was trying to sell us on Wyatt Langford as the obvious American League Rookie of the Year. And when you look at Wyatt Langford's numbers, I mean, they're So Spencer Arrighetti got off to a really shaky start, but he's a guy also lately who has been really, I mentioned what he had done in his last 6 starts. Now he's won a game. You give him another solid 6 or 7 starts, who knows?
I'm curious. I'd have to look up how many innings he had prior to this year. What about Ronel Blanco? Has he technically? What is he classified as right now?
That's an excellent question. I don't
Because
know.
theoretically, I think we both agree we have to look up the innings that he had. If he is a rookie, that should be the hands down Rookie of the Year, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a few guys like Abreu on the Red Sox.
Yeah.
The guy we traded for Vasquez. He's had a pretty decent year, and I'm pretty certain he's a rookie. And I think I'm trying to think if any of is Austin Wells on the Yankees a rookie?
I don't believe. Again, it depends on the innings classification.
Yeah, so, I mean, he's a catcher. He's had some decent, I want to say it's like 125 plate appearances for position players, but I could be wrong there.
What about for pitchers, Scott?
For pitchers, I don't know. I don't know what the rule is. I don't know if it's appearances or innings.
Well, he appeared in. There's not. He made 17 appearances last year, so there's no way.
Yeah. So I'm saying Arrighetti is a dark horse candidate at this point, because his ERA says he's around 5, but that isn't what he is down in the pennant chase. And that's been the key to this whole thing, is that when you could sit there and say, even including tonight, that Ronel Blanco has been your worst starting pitcher in the last, I would say, 3 weeks. That's saying something.
No, I mean, you're absolutely right. Like when you look at Aaron Getty, you take out, I don't know, the first start he gives up 7 runs, then 2, then 4. Then he settled in a little bit and had a nice stretch from May 25th. He goes 3-0-1-1, then give up 7 June 15th, then again 3, then 0, 6 on July 2nd, and then after that he's gone 2-1-4-3-1-2. So again, as you said, the ERA this season 5.14. But I mean the ERA in July and into August, if you combine that, much better.
Yeah. So on the positive and so on the negative end, well, we'll play the positive. We know that that JV made another rehab start. The word is that he'll probably have one more. So, assuming that you have to pull a pitcher, who are you pulling from this roster?
I might want to go 6 deep right now
Definitely. I think that's what's definitely going to happen
because I don't want to tax anybody. And then also you look at Aaron Getty is probably more inning more and Blanco have now thrown more innings than they'd ever thrown. So at this point,
Brown too, probably, yeah.
I'd rather just go 6 deep.
Well, but if you got to pick a guy from that bullpen, then who are you letting go?
Wow. Oh man, it's crazy because right now there's not anybody I really want to let go.
That's what I was thinking. I was out walking the dog, and in between trying to keep.
Ord has done nothing to lose his spot, right? King the same way. Taylor Scott's been darn good all year. I mean, crazy, but out of the big three are the ones I sometimes feel the most shaky with, outside of Hader. But Abreu tonight, a leadoff walk, 2 steals, and an infield fielder's choice turns into a tie game. Presley's been leaking oil for a month and a half. I don't know. Like I don't know where you lose a pitcher from to bring JV back at this point. Like if anything, do I maybe consider like dropping Aldemus Diaz, or does that have to be
I don't think. I think you have to carry a max. Well, you're also going to save Diaz because Tucker's coming back eventually too, though.
Yeah.
Well,
and then Scott? I really don't know.
Well, and the question is, you send down Leon, because the other possibility is, I don't know if you saw that Ahmed Rosario.
I did see that.
DFA'd, and he's got a 113 OPS plus. He can do it.
How about we drop Aldemus Diaz and go get him?
That's what I was thinking. It's like that's a no-brainer. If you want a last guy on the bench, because this team, we were texting about it earlier. Hey, why isn't DeCenzo playing left field? Why, this team is desperate for bats right now because you've got. I was looking it up. Since the All-Star break, this is including tonight, Mauricio Dubon is hitting 125 with a 176 OBP and a 250 slugging. Okay, so that's
375 basically OPS.
Yeah, so now let me see where I got to go. Where's my splits? So in the last 15 games, well, now I'm going to go 30 games. Chas McCormick hitting 159, 227 OBP, and a 203 slugging. So the question then becomes, you got to find some way to not have both those guys in the lineup on the same night.
And that's what's driving me crazy right now with the way that they're using DeCenzo, Singleton, Yiner, and Jordan, right? Like, if DeCenzo can play a little bit of left field, then you can DH Singleton. You can play DeCenzo. I'm sorry, you can DH Jordan. You can play DeCenzo in left, and Singleton can play first, or Yiner can play first, and Caratini can catch, right?
Yeah.
But all of those like Singleton is not a perfect player. He is not. He is who he is. This is the best year of his career, and he's actually like raised his average over the last month and a half from where it was. So he's swinging it okay. He's swinging it better than Dubon and McCormick. So why would you not want his bat in the lineup more often than Mauricio Dubon, than Chas McCormick, even than fucking Jake Myers, who's getting his featured, like literally our outfield across the board sucks. Like at the end of the day, we just ran an outfield out there where the highest batting average in the whole outfield is 230 with Jake Myers out there. And so, it's not like, I mean, defensively, they're pretty good when you run those three out there together, right? Like I will say the coverage out there, you basically have 3 center fielders. So is there no way that at Minute Maid Park, where you have a small fucking left field, that DeCenzo can't play left? That you can't teach this kid to give some positional flexibility? Like you're a young guy looking to get as many ABs as you can. I don't know. I mean, he also struck out with a runner on third and less than 2 outs today too. So he's not a perfect player, but I don't know. He at least looks the part more lately than Chas. Like I feel like he looks like he's up there to attack versus Chas just looks fucking lost.
Yeah, no, and that's true. Well, and so if it were me, I would get Rosario today. I'd get rid of Diaz today because he's serving absolutely zero purpose on your roster. And you can't tell me that Rosario couldn't play first. He's played every other infield position.
We don't need anybody else to play first, though. We need someone who can play left field, and Rosario can play left field.
Well, and what I'm thinking is that, if Tucker is really, they said he's about to run the bases, or maybe he already has run the bases, which the next step is a rehab assignment, which you got to think is maybe 3 or 4 games. So to me, I think the obvious play from there is if you gut Diaz and bring in Rosario, then the obvious play is to send down Leon, bring up Tucker, and there's your team. But then that means that you're just looking for a left fielder, quite literally. You've got right field. You've got right field.
We discussed looking for a left fielder at the trade deadline, right? You more than myself, pointed out some of these offensive ineptitudes. Because let's be honest here, Scott, the Astros won a game tonight. They had one fucking hit through 9 innings, right? That one hit was a homer, and they get a 2-out RBI single in the 10th. But, again, they got one fucking hit in 9 innings. This is not a team that is perfect offensively. There have been guys who right now are hot and are carrying the load, and we'll discuss that during our hat tip portion of the show. But we needed a left fielder a month ago. We still need a left fielder today. The only issue with going to get Rosario, I believe, is he can't play in the playoffs at this point.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, unless he would be replacing somebody who's injured. So I don't know how that, how they would get that finagled. That would
Can someone drop an equipment bag on Chas McCormick's foot on the way to Tampa, on the way out of Tampa today? Like, can we drop a bag of balls?
There was an 80s movie with Sylvester Stallone where they were a soccer team in World War II.
I have not seen whatever this is.
And so basically Sylvester Stallone was playing this guy. You had these prisoners of war that were the English soccer team. And so, it's one of those things. You had Pele, as if Pele is a British soldier, right? And so the whole thing is that he was going to get them to escape at halftime of the soccer game against the Germans. But the only way they could get him in is if somebody on the team had an injury. So they're like, okay, what's the position that, you could play that, is, you're not going to cause, okay, goalie. So they go to the goalie and he's like, okay, make it a clean break, guys. And he's going to break his arm. Okay, here's Sylvester Stallone, our goalie. So you'd almost have to do that. And Chas McCormick, make it a clean break, guys.
It's like Gardner Minshew was like wanting to get himself an extra year in college. So he had somebody break his foot so he can get a medical red shirt and transfer to Washington State, where now he's in the NFL, right? But
exactly.
At the end of the day, hey, Chas, take one for the team, my guy. Like, this has not been your year. Maybe Jim Crane comes to him and says, hey, look, I'll make it worth your while. We'll do like your pinky toe. We'll break the pinky toe. No one needs their fucking pinky toe. We'll get it back.
Like the Mel Gibson from Payback.
Yeah. Or, or we can go like, just like, this is terrible, but like just like a little gunshot wound right through the calf, right? Like full flesh, no damage to anything. Just, like what happened to, I'm not even going to go there. I take it back. I don't want to put that out there. But I just need someone to.
You want to go Tanya Harding on him, basically.
Not even just drop a bag of baseballs on his foot while you're loading up the team bus tonight, right? Then we can sign this guy to the active roster. I don't want anything bad to happen to anybody. I just want to bend the rules a little bit.
Yeah, there you go. All right.
What about like if he gets like colitis, right? What about like does injuries count for like if you just have really aggressive diarrhea for the next 2 months?
Chas McCormick, 15-day DL.
Anal fissures.
Dysentery.
Cholera.
That's how I died in Oregon Trail just about every time. Dysentery.
I mean, that was a pretty common one for me because I would overhunt because all I wanted to do on Oregon Trail was hunt, and then your meat would go bad because you have too much meat, and then you eat diseased meat, and here we are.
All right, Deb. Your Houston Texans played a preseason game this last weekend. You have any impressions from that game? I don't know how much of the game you actually watched.
I watched a fair amount. I definitely was excited to watch the first team offense, right? Look crisp. Look, one drive, one touchdown, right? You can't complain there. Tank Dell looks to be back and explosive, so that's good. Returning from injury and gunshot, but as I said there, straight through flesh wound, no structural injury. I think the biggest thing to me is maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's preseason, but I think Bobby Slowick has done night and day wonders for Davis Mills. I think through 2 preseason games and a whole offseason in Bobby Slowick's system, Davis Mills kind of looks like that guy that we were told he was supposed to be coming out of Stanford. And I think you've got a guy that is a good, legitimate backup, or maybe even like a Gardner Minshew type guy that a lot of teams with quarterback issues might wish they had a guy like this right now.
Yeah, that Tank Dell play, I tell you what, he made some Steeler defenders look awful. And he broke some ankles on that play.
He back.
He is back. Well, and that whole play is like a Rembrandt painting of what the Texans offense can be. Perfect protection for Stroud. Nobody came in there anywhere touching him. Perfect throw to Dell in stride. And then he makes some guys miss and look foolish. Touchdown. Now, what I will say is I still kind of, have some concerns about the running game. We didn't see Joe Mixon. Apparently, he's back at practice this week. So hopefully he'll get to play in this next preseason game. Maybe you get a few carries, shake some of the rust off. Dameon Pierce is not looking good.
I say yes and no on that, because I did see some of the all 22 footage of his 4 carries, and there was only one of those carries where he maybe had a chance to make a move and bust it outside. But if you look at the different angles, he was so poorly blocked that, like, I don't even know if Arian Foster could have got more than what he got on some of those carries.
But the key thing is that those other guys, Cam Akers in particular, is looking really good.
Yeah.
He kind of proves a theory that I've had, a medical theory. I didn't go to med school, but my theory is, you know how like when you sprain an ankle, how you have the limp.
Yeah.
Well, my theory has always been the equal pain theory, that you just sprain the other ankle, and then you can walk just fine. And so he's torn both his Achilles tendons. And so now he looks like he was when he was a rookie. So, maybe it's the equal pain theory. I don't know.
You're balanced, right? You're not you're not trying to do too much with the other leg to compensate. I don't know. Akers is a guy that, if he's healthy, he would be a nice weapon in the passing game, in the screen game, out of the backfield. A piece that you could really do some stuff with. I think the next week is going to be really interesting for this team, Scott, mostly because the receiver room is so full.
Yeah.
So full right now, and John Mechie has not looked good. So he's got to find a way to do something. Like, year 1, cancer, total wash. Last year, working your way back. Anything at all you can do is a positive, right? Like, if you have good reps on the practice field and help the team contribute that way, that's a positive, because you're just like literally working back to being who you are. But now, like, this was year 3. There's some expectations for you, right? Like, we were hoping you were coming back to that guy he was a 2nd-round pick, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
So, now he's just not looked good. And I'm not going to be mad if this pick doesn't work out, right? Because I don't think this is a this didn't work out for football reasons, right? Like this one, if it doesn't work out, it's a life thing, and it is what it is. And quite literally, he was lucky to be drafted to Houston, where we have the great cancer facilities that we have. But that being said, like right now, I don't know if it's working out on a football level.
Yeah, I think almost I wish, and I don't know if this is going to be possible, but I almost wish they could practice squad him. I don't know if he's made available. I don't know if any other team is going to snatch him up. But really, when you looked at the game, Robert Woods played well in that football game. And so I don't know, so and then you start looking at guys like you look at guys like Xavier Hutchinson. Um, Xavier Hutchinson obviously looked really good in the first game. In the second game, he didn't, catch many. I don't think he caught any balls, maybe one ball, but he had that 19-yard end around. So he's a weapon in the rushing game. Which, if you look at what the 49ers do, the 49ers, which, basically where Bobby Sloak's coming from or D'Amico Ryans is coming from, where this offense is coming from is this offense, if it's a 49ers offense, is basically going to be centered around throwing multiple formations at you and finding creative ways to run the football. Christian McCaffrey is obviously the best running back in football, but one of the reasons why he's the best running back in football is he's got, really good, and Elijah Mitchell has got a really good backup, running back that can, 8, 10, 12 carries in a football game, depending on how the game goes. But obviously you had Deebo Samuel, who's able, to take about 5 or 6 carries a game and just kind of show the defense some different looks. And if Xavier Hutchinson can be that guy, who can, give the defense some different looks, he's going to find himself with a spot on this roster. So to me, it's going to come down to, number one, what are we going to get out of Noah Brown? And that's, Noah Brown's been hurt all camp. We're not really sure, is he a guy that's always going to be hurt because he was banged up last year. So you have him. And then, the other portion of it too is that you have guys like Steven Sims, who could be, he had that punt return for a touchdown in the divisional playoff against the Ravens. So he could be a weapon on special teams. Or do you have somebody else that with the new kickoff rules and how all that's going to play out, do you have a guy that's going to do that? Do you have, somebody else that you have in mind? So you have all of these moving parts, and you're going to see this all come to fruition here, I think, in these last 2 preseason games where these guys are going to play football. You're going to have guys who are like your 7th, 8th, 9th wide receiver. You're going to carry maybe 6 guys. So the twins from North Dakota State, they're not making this football team. Could they be on the practice squad? Maybe. Johnny Johnson's another guy. I mean, he's not making this football team. But, is he going to play well enough to impress some other team? Or could he be a practice squad guy? Then, of course, you have, your battle between Xavier Hutchinson and John Mechie. To me, we're at the point now where if you're on this roster, you have to be able to make plays when called upon. I mean, those top 3 spots are entrenched in stone. You have 3 guys that possibly could be 1,000-yard receivers if they are able to make it through 17 games healthy. And so you don't need a ton from the rest of your guys, but guys like Robert Woods proven in their career and showed this last week that when called upon, they can make plays. And those are the kinds of guys that you want on your roster, which I think is going to end up, if you take both those guys, then it comes down to a decision of whether or not, are you keeping Noah Brown, because of what he's done last year and what he did with the Cowboys? Or are you letting him go because, he just can't seem to stay healthy? Mechie, do you think you can stash him on the practice squad? Is a year on the practice squad, going to make him any better? Because, these rookies signed 4-year contracts. So, if you keep them, you got another year with them. So I don't know the particular rules, whether or not if you put them on the practice squad, whether or not that means that you're cutting them and, giving them, the all the bonus money and all that, the guaranteed money. But it's kind of hard to justify him as one of the top 6 wide receivers on this team right now. And that's kind of a hard. It's a hard thing. Cancer sucks, and they made a move up in the second round to get him. This not just a second round pick. They traded some other picks in order to move up to get him. So it's going to look bad, if you're cutting a guy year 3. But I don't know how you go. We talked about with Caleb Ort, and we talked about with Brian King and relief pitchers like that. I don't know how you go to somebody like a Xavier Hutchinson and say, like, I'm sorry, I know you performed better, but this guy was a second round pick. You were a 6th round pick, so that's the way it goes. I don't think you can make that kind of a move. So I think it's going to come down to Noah Brown versus John Mechie. And it's really difficult for me to pick John Mechie right now based on what we saw last year and based on what we've seen so far, and even the reports, like when we brought on our guest, a few weeks ago, from Houston football, Cody Stutes, who, he's been doing reports every day from training camp. And if you read his reports on Substack, Houston football, every day, I mean, it seems like he's talking about how, man, John Mechie's not looking that good. Or, hey, Xavier Hutchinson's looking really good. And it's hard to sit there and have a guy that looks really good in training camp, looks really good during your preseason games, and showed some flashes last year. It's hard to sit there and go to him and say, "Listen, bud, I know you're better, but man, we paid this guy more money, and he was a second round pick, and so he's going to be the guy." I just don't think you can do that. And so that's going to be a hard play. I think we're going to have some hard plays in the secondary. Obviously, we brought in a couple of established corners, Jeff Okuda, C.J. Henderson. I think it's highly likely that one of those guys goes. But Tim, as I was saying, before you stepped out, I don't know how you go to Xavier Hutchinson and tell him, I know you played better, and I know you've played better in camp, but we paid this guy more money, and he's a higher draft pick. I don't know how you go and tell him we're going to cut you. So to me, it comes down to probably Mechie and Noah Brown. If Noah Brown is a guy that ends up being put on IR, maybe with an injury return designation, and you give Mechie maybe, that 4 or 5 weeks during the season, to show that he could be something, or do you just, pull the Band-Aid off now and make that cut?
I mean, that's a tough one because I agree with you. There's no, like, Hutchinson has to make this team. Like, first and foremost, Mechie was not a D'Amico Ryans pick, right? Like that was a Nick Caserio pick before D'Amico got here. Hutchinson was one of D'Amico's guys, so I think that's going to play into it. The thing that's going to be interesting is what's the trade market look like, Scott? A team like the Patriots that literally, you put a lot of eggs in the Juju Smith-Schuster basket. Well, his knees are shot. You are trading away a pass rusher. You're accruing draft picks. Like, something's going on there. You've got a rookie quarterback and basically no receivers for him. Maybe somewhere like that would be a good landing place for Woods, for Noah Brown for the right price, for Mechie if you could get a late round pick for him and he could still have a chance to go play. At the end of the day, I don't see a spot on this roster, right? Like, I feel like this is going to be a real competitive 53. I think on the offensive side of the ball, you've got enough little gadget guys that it's going to be tough to carry just like a true backup wide receiver, right? Because like is it Skowrick or Skorenik?
See, and that's where
He's a guy that's
I
interesting to me. I'd rather carry him right now because he can do 2 or 3 different things.
Well, what's going to be rough is that traditionally you carry 6 wide receivers. That would be the max, right? So rattle them off with me. You've got Tank Dell,
right?
You've got Nico Collins.
Okay.
You've got
Diggs.
You've got
Brown.
Noah Brown. You've got Robert Woods.
That's 5.
You've got Xavier Hutchinson.
6.
Okay. So who out of that group, unless you make a trade like you suggest, which I think, but I don't know if the Patriots are building. I wonder if the Patriots are tanking at this point.
But also, too, like, here's where I'm at. If my 6th receiver can bring me something a little bit different, who can play a scat back, who can play an H back, you can line him up at the fullback spot on some plays and get him out in the flat. That might be a little bit more of a valuable 6th wide receiver roster spot than just carrying a backup wide receiver.
Yeah, and I think with Xavier Hutchinson, what he showed you in this last preseason game, he had that 19-yard run. I think he's like your Deebo Samuel type. So that's the different thing that he offers that, some of the other guys don't.
I mean, I'd get rid of Woods pretty quickly. I think
Woods
is a wasted roster spot at this point.
I think so. See, but the question is the crunch that you're going to have with those guys you mentioned, Skowrick, is you have a lot of special teams demons on this team, and he was brought in to be one of those guys. So another guy you want to look at, Ogunbowale at running back. How important is it that he stay on and play special teams, or do you feel like you have that covered? Because, you're going to carry 4 running backs. So if you say Pierce, Akers, and Mixon, who's your 4th running back?
Yeah. I mean, I hate this time of year, but I love it at the same time too, right? Like,
yeah. He's your backup kicker.
But do we really need a backup kicker, Scott?
But no,
but no, there's been years.
He has been a good special teams guy. But see, the point is that how many really good special teams guys do you already have who can also contribute, realistically at the position that they're at? See, I don't know if Ogunbowale is really going to be really adding anything to the running back room.
But I don't think whoever your 4th running back is ever really adding anything to the running back room game day.
Maybe not. Well, it depends. Like it really is going to depend. Like if you say Jawar Jordan's our 4th guy, right? Then he's a developmental back, and if Mixon has to miss a game, or Pierce has to miss a game, if Akers is your true 3rd down scat back, then he's not a backup running back in the traditional sense.
But I feel like if Mixon has to miss a game, we're going running back by committee. We're gonna, the inside, the tackles carries are probably gonna go to Pierce. The stuff outside is probably gonna go to Akers. If it's Johnson or Juwan Jordan, or if it's OG, they're gonna pick up some carries here or there too, right? Like, Mixon's gonna have such a huge role in this offense that if he has to miss a game or two, it's not going to be plug this guy in and go. It's going to be these 3 players all have to step up together and do a little bit something extra today.
All right. So the other guy I think comes up in questions, and I think it really depends on who you're asking, which I love listening to the difference between, like, say, 6'10 and 790 and 97.5, because 6'10 I think puts a rosy
paid by the Texans.
Yeah, they put a rosy picture on everything. So here's going to be a lightning rod. Jalen Petrie. What are your thoughts?
Terrible in coverage, fine in the run game. I think if you can get Simmons, then you have the ability to play Petrie at least in a way that's maybe more fitting to his style. Like, I think if he was like when you go to nickel dime or quarter package, like if he was like a coverage linebacker, totally fine player. If he's your starting safety, we're in trouble.
Well, that's what the Texans have supposedly worked him in the nickel. Like, he's in like the Desmond King kind of role at this point.
But I want him more as a linebacker, not as a coverage back, right? Like, he can tackle and he has the size to play like nickel and dime linebacker. I don't need him playing corner.
Well, the issue then becomes who's your deep safety? Especially if Ryan's got to miss some games. Kalen Bullock has looked really good in the preseason. And so I think he's going to end up starting sooner rather than later.
I agree.
And here's another name that I know that Texan fans are going to start doing a full body shiver, but Eric Murray has supposedly looked good as well.
I like Bullock a lot. They said he was a ball hawk coming out of college, just not the best tackler, wasn't great in the run game. Like, okay, that's not what we need you to do, right? Like the Texans truly need like a center fielder back there. They have, I want to say, most of their franchise's existence. Like we thought we were going to get that with Ed Reed, and that just didn't happen. So, getting a player like that is exactly what they needed. I think he's probably going to start day one. I really do think he's going to start at the free safety day one, Scott.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw that first Bears game where he, separated that receiver from the ball, which is one we should have recovered if they just kind of fall on the ball instead of trying to do the scoop and run.
It was a horse's ass type of play.
It was. It was indeed.
Speaking of which, what transition skills? We have some awards to give out here, Scott. It's that time of the week where we nominate the horse's ass of the week. Scott, I'll let you go first. Who you got this week for your horse's ass?
I'm going to split mine with a later one, but I just wanted to go in and talk about this for a second. The horse's ass has kind of evolved over the last several weeks on the show. And so we wanted to give like a definition for our listeners to kind of understand, so it could be a guy that we want out of town on your sports team. It could be that, or it could be somebody who's done something pretty bad, but it just doesn't quite rise to the level of scumbag. So I'm going to go with my HOA. So driving around in Clear Lake, I'm sure you've heard the stories from your parents. Did your parents have a ton of debris from the storm?
Yes and no. I mean, they live on the lake, so a lot of the damage was done like to the dock and stuff like that.
So, well, basically, we had some trees on the property, and so we lost some limbs. And so, what we decided to do at the same time was we hired a kid, and I mentioned him in the last show, is that he basically with a friend cut down all of our loose limbs and took out all of our debris. So, and I've confirmed this with the city of Houston. I called the city of Houston July 15th. I'm going to get to the city of Houston later on. Just, hold your horses on that. But driving around Clear Lake, Bay Forest, I see no debris. Bay Oaks, I see no debris. My neighborhood, North Fork, we still have debris. We're a damn month after this damn storm, people. And I know my father was on the board, so I know they're sitting on over $100,000 from our dues because they spend hardly any of it. They got us some new benches in our parks. They got us a place to put dog poop in our green belt. And they usually make some minor adjustments to the pool, like some minor repairs. That's it. That's what they do for us. Now, they do put some nice nasty grams. I don't know if have you ever experienced that joy, Tim?
Of what?
Where you get the little notice from the HOA.
I purposefully looked for a neighborhood without an HOA when I bought my home because I know myself very well, and I would have gone to war on the HOA, or I would have run for president so I could make the rules myself.
I'm close, Tim. And I've only been this close one other time. During Ike, our HOA decided to hire somebody to come by and cut down limbs in all of our houses. And they just left the stash there in our front lawn, and then they put a little nasty gram. We noticed there's some debris in your front lawn, and we need you to take care of that. It's like, no fucking shit, there's debris in my front lawn. You're the guys who caused the debris. I came this close. Their office was about a block away from our house. I came this close to carrying all that debris and just stacking it right there in front of their office. So there you go. Taken care of. It's your debris now. Maybe I put a nasty gram in your box. But no, the first week we moved into our new house, our neighbors had also moved away. And they decided, oh, fuck it, we're not going to take our trash cans with us. So they left it in their yard, and their trash cans blew over into our yard. The very first week, Tim, they put a little notice in our box. We noticed you have your trash cans in your front lawn. It's like, they're not our fucking trash cans. We just moved in. How about a welcome to the neighborhood? So they've also complained about, the bleach, that we need to either bleach or power wash the side of our house that nobody can see except for our neighbors. So we ended up doing that. So after all of that, what did they do for us with the debris? Absolutely jack shit. We still have the debris in our front lawn. So guess what happens if a hurricane comes back into town?
That debris going flying.
That's right. So, I mean, at least the pile is smaller because at least the leaves have all died. So, I mean, it looks like it's smaller, but, that's about all I can say for it at this point.
Hey, what are you going to do, Scott? What are you going to do? The HOA is there to make your life miserable, but to beautify the neighborhood. As you said, you got some dog shit receptacles. You got some new park benches. Suck it up and be happy.
That's
But
right.
no, HOAs are terrible. Some people love them. I think for the most part, they're pretty shitty. I am going to this week nominate for Horse's Ass the fans that decided to run out and buy the Jaron Duran jersey, as he's become a top-rated jersey on MLB.com, not because of his quality of play, because of an anti-gay slur that he chanted out and got suspended. Like, I know the exact type of people that went and bought this fucking hat, that bought this jersey, Scott. And I say hat because they're red fucking hatters. These are the MAGA fucking loser scumbags who think it's hilarious that this guy called someone, a bundle of sticks, if I may, and now want to buy his jersey because, fuck cancel culture or whatever it is, right? Like, this is ridiculous. Like, if you called someone that at work, you'd get a lot more than a 2-game suspension. If I called someone that at work, I'd get a lot more than a 2-game suspension. And any normally run office in America, you can't go around shouting that word at people. So why would a baseball game be any different? It shouldn't be. But these freaking losers think they're funny, think they're smart, think they're cool, and they go out and they buy these jerseys to what? What statement are you making by the fact that you're buying a jersey of someone who dropped a hard F at somebody, at a fan? Like, woohoo, you're anti-woke. Congratulations. Fucking losers.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever used that term. Maybe back in the 80s, when it was more acceptable and we were kids. But here's the thing, what I'll say with that. Jaron Duran, I'm not going to call him a scumbag or, I'm not going to, call him a horse's ass because he might have gotten caught up in the moment. He might be apologetic.
He has apologized, right? And as you notice, Scott, I'm not calling him the horse's ass here, right?
Yeah,
like,
no, exactly.
He made a mistake in the heat of the moment. Whatever. I don't think it was right, but the fans who double down and are like, I'm supporting this guy because he said this, that's a problem.
Yeah, I have no issue with him. Like I said, heat of the moment. Who hasn't called an umpire? Old Bull Durham, the CS.
Yeah, at first I thought, I wonder if that was the gay slur if he called him a CSer.
But yeah, I mean, it happens, right? See, here's the thing, though, is that we don't celebrate this stuff. We don't crucify him. We offer him a road back to redemption, but we don't celebrate it. And that's what and that's where the difference. And I know that some people have gone off on political correctness and they've gone off on cancel culture. But you know who invented cancel culture, Tim?
The Republicans,
right-wing Christians.
Yeah.
I mean, that's cancel culture. You got to own that because that's what that is, and that's that's unfortunate.
It really is. It's sad, but that's the world we live in, Scott, where these people think they're fucking hilarious. But let's keep this train a moving into some positive things as we get an opportunity to tip a cap. Scott, I'll let you take it away.
Okay, I'm going to tip my cap. I'm going to see if I can pull this off, Tim. My tip of my cap will go to your Alex Bregvarez. And so if y'all haven't figured that out, I am talking about your Jordan Alvarez and Alex Bregman. Alex Bregman, who was the co-player of the week in the American League this last week. And what does he do Monday in his first at-bat? He hits another dinger. So obviously did not have a good night tonight because nobody in the Astros lineup had a good night other than Jeremy Pena. But that's how this team is going to get over, and that's how this team has gotten over, is when your stars play like stars. And one of the things that we thought that maybe Alex Bregman would have a career year, and then early in the season we thought, okay, maybe this is going to be the worst year of his career. And as it turns out, it's been a pretty normal Alex Bregman year. He sucks in the first half, and then he starts heating up in July and August and September. And he's hitting around 260. He's got 19 home runs. His walks are a bit down, but hopefully that will start turning around here, especially when Kyle Tucker comes back and pitchers start to be a little bit more careful around this Astros lineup. Jordan Alvarez, we mentioned him earlier, possibly getting sued by the Rays. I'm sure that's a joke. But this is a guy who I don't think there's a hitter in baseball who is a more dangerous or better hitter when this guy's on. I mean, Aaron Judge is obviously up there.
That's the only other guy I think you have the same fear of.
Juan Soto for different reasons because he's a lot more patient. But name me 5 hitters who are as good as Jordan Alvarez in the game right now.
I can only give you the 2 that you named that are, but and Judge I think is the only one that's, well, maybe Ohtani as well as guys that can change a ball game at any point. Soto's got the same level of patience, but he doesn't quite have the same pop that Jordan has. At least he hasn't through his career, right? He's kind of more of the Tony Gwynn style hitter. He will score up a baseball and hit a home run, but he's just more of a natural line drive hitter.
Yeah, 32 on the year.
Yeah, but also he's playing in a short porch Yankee Stadium too.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is Jordan goes through these funks where you're like, what in the hell's wrong with Jordan? And then all of a sudden, like this road trip, he flipped the switch. He loves hitting in Boston. Man, if I were Boston, I'd be like, can we trade for this guy? We'll give you, I don't know, one of our farm teams for Jordan. I mean, because that guy owns Fenway, him and Bregman both.
Yeah, I mean, when Jordan is on a heater, there's no other player in the world. You're right. There's no other player in baseball. When Jordan is on, it's honestly like the only player that I can truly compare, like the level of respect that he got versus like what Jordan gets when he's like mashing, is Barry Bonds, right? Like Barry literally drew like 120 intentional walks in a season. But no one's really got that treatment since him. But when Jordan is hot, Jordan gets the Barry Bonds treatment, right? Like no one pitches to him late in games. They don't challenge him. They don't go after him. It's everything breaking balls away, breaking balls low, see if he'll chase and strike out. If not, and intentional walk, right?
Yeah, or just a flat out intentional walk, which you've seen a couple of times, late in games on this road trip. And the thing is that Yair Diaz is not he's not going to Cooperstown. I'm sorry to break anybody's bubble there. Jordan's not a Hall of Famer, but he's done enough while Tucker's been out to at least keep you somewhat honest. I mean, he's hitting 300. He's not taking as many walks as we kind of would hope, but
12 homers, nothing to.
Yeah, he's doing enough, and Pena behind him is now up to 12 dingers.
A little bit of a heater as well for Pena.
So they're doing enough to where at least the first 5 slots through the order, you're feeling okay. It's when you get to slots 6, 7, 8, and 9 when you're starting to go like, not so sure. But, when Singleton's playing, if Singleton's hitting in the 6th hole, you at least got a guy that will take walks and occasionally step into one.
Yeah. I think the lineup gets better when Tucker gets back for sure. A little lengthier. And I think you got a great hat tip. I think they both have stepped their game up at a time that the Astros have needed it, and you see it in the results, right? 8 straight wins. I'm going to tip my hat this week, Scott, it's a combination hat tip to my Aunt Kate for gifting me the tickets and for the band Journey for absolutely showing up and showing out. My aunt had planned a trip here with my mom to come see the combination of Steve Miller, Journey, and Def Leppard. Literally bought front row seats to the show. Couldn't make it. I get the tickets. I am sitting front freaking row at Journey. I caught 2 T-shirts. I high-fived Arnel Pineda as he went by, who is the new lead singer for Journey. He's not really new. It's been about 10 years now, but Scott, when I tell you dream come true for this performance, that doesn't even begin to justify it. I have been a Journey fan for probably close to 20 years now. If you were to find my original iPod Mini, the gold one with the white wheel on it, you would find a shit ton of Journey on that iPod, and you would still find a shit ton of Journey on my iPhone today. So to be able to finally see this band in the front row, the experience that I had, it can't be topped. I mean, the energy that Arnel brings to the stage is unbelievable. The performance is unbelievable. I know every word to every song, and just being able to sit there and look right at the guy and sing along with him. Just literally a once in a lifetime opportunity, and I'm so thankful that my aunt decided to send me and actually had the chance to take my dad with me, and so it was just really cool to share that experience with him, and be able to see a band that I've truly dreamed about seeing for I can honestly say 16 years.
I was gonna say, I was kind of, disappointed you weren't able to go to Tears for Fears with me.
Yeah, it would have been good.
Because listening to 10,000 people all singing, shout, and head over heels, word for word. I mean, that's just great stuff. So, are you saying that that's the best show you've ever seen?
Hands down, not even close. And I feel like I'm pretty lucky on some of the shows I've seen. I've seen Bruce Springsteen twice, including his Broadway show. I saw Tom Petty about a month before he passed away when he was at Toyota Center. I saw the Queen show with Adam Lambert. I've seen Eric Clapton at Toyota Center. That was a great show. But
was that the one with Winwood?
I don't know if that one had Winwood. I saw that in high school, so it was like 2008. I saw Winwood with Tom Petty, and it was just like a lot of time for a guy whose only good song is Higher Love.
We might have been at no, Tim. No, Tim. I invite you to listen to some Traffic.
It'd be like telling me to listen to deep cuts from Boz Scaggs. I'm here for Lido Shuffle and nothing else.
Well, I'll tell you what. In fact, he's got my uncle's favorite song. So we go to that show, that Clapton show, with Steve Winwood, and number one, he announces my uncle. We bump into him in the line for beer, and he announces that he is there for Winwood. And there's a song that he did because they did all the Blind Faith stuff, because that's when they were together. And he did Can't Find My Way Home. That is a great tune. Got to look that.
I Can't Find My Way Home. I'll give you that one. That's a good song.
But I like Dear Mr. Fantasy is a good song from Traffic. Before he was with Eric Clapton.
Dear Mr. to see. Okay, all right, all right.
So he's not just a one-trick pony. Now, I'll give you Clapton's better.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'll give you that. But Steve Winwood's not bad. But that's probably that or Paul McCartney's probably my top show.
McCartney would be pretty cool, but I mean, it's just for me, it's there are certain things in your life that you build up in your head, right? Like, and oftentimes when you build those things up, they don't live up to those expectations, and you're left maybe a little bit disappointed. This was one of those things that I built up in my head because, like, I watched a documentary on Journey when they found this guy. For those of you who don't know, like, Journey's current lead singer, they found him on YouTube. He was singing Journey fucking covers on YouTube, and Journey was like, we should go get that guy. So I watched a documentary about him, and they talked about the energy that he brings to the stage and how when they had Steve Perry, he was much more stationary, didn't like to move around. And so I'm going into this thinking like, okay, like this guy has energy. And not only did he meet those expectations, he exceeded them. I mean, the only I think show in my life that could ever top this is if somehow like the passed away members of Led Zeppelin came back to life. And I had the exact same seat because part of the reason I loved it so much was I had the best seats I've ever had in my life.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I was sitting in. I'm not exaggerating when I say front row. The only thing in front of me between me and the fucking stage was a gate and a security guard. I got asked to get off the gate 3 separate times because I'm leaning and just fucking jamming and fist pumping and high fiving Arnell as he comes by. So like being that close to the stage for your favorite band, I just don't see how anything I've ever been to before could top that.
If you have like an old fart alert here, you could flash it across the screen. But I'm gonna make you wince here. I was sitting floor for Paul McCartney at the Astrodome. I bought floor seats and a T-shirt. You want to guess my combined expenditure on those two items?
What year was it?
1993.
93. Okay. I'm going to guess the floor seats were like $50 each at that point.
You'd be correct on that one. Yeah.
Okay. And then T-shirt. One T-shirt?
One T-shirt.
$125 out the door.
60 out the door. $10 T-shirt.
Oh, you only had to buy one ticket.
Yeah, one ticket.
I thought you were saying two, like a date.
No. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you're on the right track. So imagine
$10 T-shirt.
Yeah.
T-shirts for $50 fucking dollars.
I know that.
I went to go look. And I was like, I really want a Journey T-shirt. And I went to go look. I was like, $50? No fucking way. But then here's what I learned at this concert too, Scott. They love to get free shit to people who don't need free shit, right? Like, again, I'm sitting in the very front row. These are very expensive tickets. They start tossing out $50 T-shirts. I caught 2 of them. I got $100 worth of fucking merchandise just sitting there.
All right. So I'm pretty sure that you and I would both agree on most weeks Ticketmaster would be a scumbag.
Absolutely.
But this week, I am sure we can beat them.
I think we can too. I'll let you take it away, Scott. These people have offended us, and they should be recognized as scumbags of the week.
So I mentioned my story before. So on July 15th, the city of Houston has tree removal service. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to get on the list. Now, I am not some jamoke and some jackass who thinks that I'm on the list July 15th and they're going to come step 2 and July 16th and take away my shit. I'm not that guy. I mean, that's those are Karens, and I just don't, I'm not going to be that guy. However, when I call back a month later and I'm like, hey, listen, can I get an estimate on when this thing's going to get done? Because, we might have another hurricane coming in, and I don't want debris in my front lawn going through my windows. Just, kind of crazy that way. Well, sir, we can't tell you. We don't know. Go to this website. There's a map, and you go there, the map, it doesn't tell you anything. But then my last call today, well, the city of Houston doesn't serve your area.
Oh, my God.
And it's like, well, it's funny on my address, it says city of Houston, And my tax dollars seem to go to City of Houston. And she was not really receptive to that argument because she's like, well, how many days do you get garbage done? It's like, well, we get it done twice. Well, that's not City of Houston. And it's like, well, y'all took me down and you put me down. So are you telling me that you're not going to come by and pick this up? Well, no. We took it down, so we'll get around to it. We had some people around your neighborhood cutting down stuff, and so they're going to come back a little bit later and pick it up. Again, with that, we're going to cut down your shit and not pick it up. I mean, it's so. And here's the thing for the city of Houston. Okay, number one, debris, if you don't pick it up, can block storm drains. If we're blocking storm drains, we get flooding. If we get flooding, we're causing all kinds of damage, and you're going to have people who are going to be, not able to get to work and all that good stuff. And then if another storm guy comes through, how many little logs we have in our front lawn? Those suckers are going right through our windows. You're causing all kinds of property damage, and all because y'all couldn't get your act together. Now, what you could tell me, and I've dealt with people before who've tried to put you off. Here's what you need to tell me. Just, man up, woman up, sit there and say, sir, we've got way too much to do. We can't get out to you this month. Cool. Then I can maybe hire a private service or drop a bill off at my HOA and tell them they should pay for it. But I could get a private service to do it. But instead, it's like, oh, they'll be coming soon. Oh, they'll be coming soon. Okay, don't give me that shit. Either tell me, yeah, they're coming, or no, they're not. And then I'll be pissed off if they're not. But at least I'll be in a better position as a homeowner to sit there and go like, okay, I got to figure something else out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. After, I think it was in late May, we had like those they call it straight line winds because it wasn't cycloning like a tornado was, but it was still 99-mile-an-hour winds. We lost trees, all that stuff, and it took I think 4 weeks for the city to get to our part of the neighborhood to collect all that debris, and we're not even that big of a neighborhood. So it was definitely interesting how long that takes. I can't even imagine with the city of Houston getting that stuff done. I am going to speak to more Texas state leadership. This one a little bit higher up. Somebody who, we could call a frequent flyer. We could call a repeat guest. I would call him like a recidivist because he continues to repeat crime over and over again, even though they haven't been like convicted crimes. I still think he's a fucking criminal. And we're talking about the Attorney General of Texas, Ken Paxton. What is Kenny Boy up to this week, Scott? He is threatening to sue over the fact that the state fair has banned open carry guns in the state fair, which, like, I'm going to be honest with you, seems like a pretty good and reasonable thing to me. I don't know about you, but like when I'm walking around trying to find a Fletcher's corny dog, I don't need to see guys with small penises and strapped guns on them everywhere they go. Like, I don't need to know that you're carrying a gun. I don't need to see it. We don't need it there. There are police, there are event staff that security wise that handle those things. The worst thing that could happen would be like if there was someone who had a gun in the Texas State Fair that was doing a bad thing and good Samaritans pull out their guns and just start shooting. There are millions of people who go to the fair. We don't need cowboy in white hat pulling gun out, fucking saving the day. We need duck cover, get the fuck out of there if anything happens. So again, this is Ken Paxton trying to draw attention away from the criminal and illegal shit that he does by trying to raise a little outrage over the fact that you can't bring a gun into the Texas State Fair. You can't bring a gun to Minute Maid Park. He's not suing Minute Maid Park. You can't bring a gun into NRG Stadium. He's not suing NRG Stadium. There are plenty of, you can't bring a gun into a school. He's not suing the fucking education department to let, small dick dun coating guys go to the school with their second penis strapped to their hip. He's not doing that. It's only the Texas State Fair because that's the new one, and he wants the attention from it. He is a scumbag. He is a recidivist. He is a serial philanderer. He is an adulterer, and somehow still Attorney General of Texas.
All right, Tim. So, did you ever see the SNL sketch where Steve Martin, where they were like the 5-time host, and they like gave themselves like special jackets?
I have, yeah.
Maybe we need to do that for Greg Abbott, Ted Cruz, and Ken Paxton. Maybe we could spring for like a cheap jacket that we can send them and say, congratulations, you've been a 4-time scumbag on.
But like, they're not going to wear the jacket, right? Like, they're not going to put it on and pose for a picture. So at this point, I think what would be better if we just invest in Photoshop and just Photoshop them with the jacket on. I think it'd be a little bit cheaper, and we could actually get the picture that we want.
Okay, so I said earlier in the program, I'm not a lawyer. I didn't go to law school. I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. So I'm just going to ask some very basic questions here, Tim. Is the state fair a public or private enterprise?
Private, I think.
I don't think the state of Texas is
private. Yeah, I think it's private.
Well, is it not the right of any private business, the right to regulate what you do in their business?
Yeah.
So you see like no shirt, no shoes, no service, no guns allowed in the store. You mentioned churches. Like, here's my favorite. Like, we were talking about security on our pastoral council, and one of our members, not going to put them on blast. She's very, very nice. I like her a lot, but she's talking about the fact that her husband's retired military. And so he decides that he brings it upon himself to pack heat during Mass. And I'm sitting there thinking, I don't know that I'm entirely comfortable with that.
Yeah, I'm not.
I understand that, you're concerned, and I've met the guy, perfectly nice guy. Have no problem with him. Seems like a good guy, but see, like you mentioned, if you've got 500 people in the congregation and somebody, some bad guy pulls out a gun, how many innocent people are you going to wing as the good guy trying to take care of that situation? And so if the state fair is indeed a private organization, private entity, for profit, then the people who own it, organize it, run it, have the absolute right to say, here are the rules that you have to abide by to attend this event.
Let's also go by the fact that I'd say a majority of people who go to the Texas State Fair are happy about this rule. I'd say most people who go don't want to just see Billy Bob strapped up, because it's not just one gun too, right? Like, I've seen people with literally like gun on each hip and 2 more guns on one on each thigh, right? Like 4 fucking pistols walking around to get kolaches at a Shipley's. That's what you need to go get breakfast. Like, these people, it's a small portion of the population that want to like walk around like this. I bet many gun-owning Texans are perfectly fine saying like, okay, this is a gun-free event. Totally get it. No big deal. I'll leave my gun at home. I'll leave my gun in the car. I don't need to have my gun on me. Okay. But again, it is the riling up of the base, the outrage crisis, the faux outrage that we do. It's, and for those of you who saw my first blog post or my first Substack, it's a great example of main character syndrome, right? Like, this is our Attorney General inserting himself into a story that he literally doesn't have anything to do with.
Yeah, I was going to tell you a couple of things. Number one, I got to push back a little bit on the guy going to Shipley's, because, you never know, Tim. A grizzly bear could show up at the Shipley's. And
yes, I have been known to see a bear claw or 2 at the donut shop, but I think
bears love bear claws.
I think the most violent thing about Shipley's is the diarrhea that comes if you eat too many donuts. Really.
Well, I was going to tell you, though, I have a coworker who reads my page regularly. He said, you did a good job on your first post. So I thought, I'd throw that your way. But the other, my question is, and this, and I, obviously I'm joking about the grizzly bears. So I don't even think grizzly bears are native to Texas. But I have to wonder. I haven't done public opinion polling on this. How many Texans are really for the open carry law in general? I happen to think it's probably a minority.
I bet
But
like 30 to 35% truly want like full on open carry. I think there was no problem with concealed carry and having to get a permit. Like, just show me that you know a little bit about gun safety before I let you carry a gun everywhere you go. Just show me that you gave a fuck enough to take one class. One fucking class is all that you had to do. And you're, that's too much. That's too much. These people want to have their second penises strapped to them all the time.
Yeah, so I mean, you're talking about appeasing a minority of the state, and this is one of the things I don't like about living in the state of Texas is I feel like we are being, for the last 30 years, have been ruled. I'm not even going to say governed. I'm going to say ruled by a minority, a vocal minority, and I'm sick and tired.
I would agree with you, Scott. There is no governance from the Texas legislature at this point. But I think that's all that we have for everybody this week. As I alluded to, I have started writing for Scott. So now we are both writing for Scott's Substack Thoughts from a Native Texan. My first post this week was about what we'll call main character syndrome. And I'm working on a piece on kind of the outrage in the history of free breakfast in America that I'm really looking forward to.
So be on the lookout. So Tim's section, if you pull down the section, you'll see a section for the Snap Hook, which was our first podcast. You'll see one for the Hall of Fame Index, and then Tim's is called Tim's Mind Cannon.
I hope you spelled cannon right on there.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Let's make it sure.
I spelled cannon, not the war cannon, but the other cannon.
You know, I like a good pun, Scott. I'm a punny guy.
So, and it should have his byline. We had a little bit of snafu there with the first one that it had my name on it, but he now has administrator rights, and so he can go in and publish when he wants, and it should have his name on it. And if anybody else, obviously, if you know me and you're interested in doing some writing, rent at this point is free until we get a lot of people wanting to do it, and then I might start charging money. But if you're interested, I got space, so come talk to me.
As Jim Rome said, have a take, don't suck, right? Like, come in, come hot. I'm hoping I can bring something positive to the Substack, Scott. And, I'm looking forward to it. You know, as you and I continue to grow what we do with the show, what we do, on the Substack outside the show, hopefully we can build a little bit more of a following base and we can have, a little bit more inclusive thought in a good way. I one of the main reasons I was encouraged to do this is, those of you who follow me on Facebook, you'll see I'm willing to have an argument, right? And one of my cousins, probably one of the smartest human beings I know, has a degree in law from Notre Dame and works for the Innocence Project. Literally gets people who were wrongfully convicted off of death row. And she specifically reached out to me and thanked me for continuing to try and properly educate some people on what's going on here in Texas specifically. And once I saw that, I realized, maybe I do have a little bit more to offer than just to call it talking shit on Facebook, right? So putting my money where my mouth is, and happy that Scott has given me that opportunity. So if you haven't checked out the Substack Thoughts from a Native Texan, also be sure to head on over to the Crawfish Boxes, where Scott is a contributor, as well as Battle Red blog, as he continues to update us from the training camp happenings.
All right. And absolutely. That was a great first shot there for you, Tim. So we're looking forward to more.
Yep, I look forward to writing them, but that's going to be all that we have this week. Be sure to continue to hop on the Content Express that is Tim Costello and Scott Barzilla as we continue to pump out podcast and Substack articles for you on the weekly basis. But we appreciate everyone who tuned in, who read, who joined the movement. We have been born on the Bayou Sports. We will see you again next week.